don't know how many of you are familiar with Spyderco. They're a company based out of Colorado in the United States. And what Spyderco do is they specialise in creating gentleman's folders or everyday carry penknives, just like a penknife like your grandfather used to own. And often in the United States, people put it in their EDC, or their everyday carry, and they'll often keep it alongside, you know, their Glock 9mm and all the other things Americans are allowed to have that we're not. And they're great, and they're really well sought after because they are very, very nice, very well made knives. Unfortunately, from a UK perspective, most Spyderco knives are lockable. They have a lockable blade, and because of that, we can have them, but we can't carry them every day without a good reason. So if you were going hunting and you needed it for hunting, that would be fine, you could have it. But if you wanted to just have it in your pocket just to go to work, go and see your friends, have it in your car, just have it there for when you just might need it, and a policeman pulled you over with a normal lockable blade, you know, that can get you jail time in this country. So Spyderco saw that. They saw that there was a gap in the market, and they knew that their products were popular here, and they released this, the UK Penknife. And here it is. I picked this up at the British Shooting Show, and it cost me about £50, which some say is quite expensive. You can get it cheaper, allegedly. I know one of my subscribers thinks he got it for about £25, which seems a bit cheap to me, but apparently you can do that, so I guess I paid, you know, show prices. But either way, I had some money burning my pocket, so I didn't really mind. It's a very nice blade. But you'll notice that it's very similar to the Spyderco Tenacious. In fact, it's almost exactly the same, save the fact that it doesn't have a locking mechanism, and you can just close it like that. And also, you may notice, those who are paying a bit closer attention, there's some sort of jimping here and here, which you don't always get on Spyderco, especially the Tenacious. The blade tends to go all the way around to here. And you hear some Americans actually complaining because their finger's a bit too close to the edge when they're cutting with it. But with this one, you can get your finger right underneath there, and when you're cutting, if it does stop locking, you know, if it pulls forward, even with lots of pressure, that is not going to cut you. All it's going to do is dig in. As you can see, it's just dug into my finger. But, you know, I'd rather have that than get sliced to pieces, frankly. So it's great. It's a good blade. They're very popular. In fact, Spyderco, typically in the UK, are extremely expensive. I know that I've seen Tenacious blades going for nearly £100 here, which is outrageous when you consider that they cost $40 in the US. But people who import them know that people want them, and you can't get them. So they'll just charge whatever they like. So this isn't too badly priced from a UK standpoint. I know our American friends will think it's insanely expensive, but everything is here, frankly, so we have to put up with it. But yeah, it's great. It's not too bad. I've been using done a few sort of rudimentary tasks with it. In fact, if you look here, see, it copes very well with sort of cutting vegetables. And if you look here, you can see it obviously does very well for sort of whipping out and opening boxes and things. So it's a bit of an all-rounder, really. There's no wobble in it at all. It's rock solid, and as I said, it's stiff, but it's not too stiff, so it's legal. And on the back, I don't know how well you can see that. Try and get it to focus. There's almost like cutouts. You see just there. And the reason that's there is it catches on it, so it naturally comes to this sort of position. So if you're holding it like this or something, and it did push forward, it will naturally stop at that point before then going full to a close, which is a nice touch. And I like the fact that it's got, I mean, they are these sort of star-shaped nuts that you always, that you always get on certain Apple computers, which are really irritating. I just happen to have an Apple computer and work with them, so I have the right screw head. But these star screws you can take out. You can take the scales off, which are G10 by the way, and give it a complete clean. You can tighten it up if it does ever become a little bit wobbly, because I suppose potentially it might. And you can also take this belt clip off completely if you prefer, or you can swap it and put it on the other side. So it's very nicely made, and it does everything I've asked it to quite well. It is quite sharp. And I say quite because it's not super razor sharp. It's, as it came out of the box, it'll cut paper and things. I mean, if I get a sheet of paper here, in fact this is my ticket from the show, funnily enough. This is thin paper. But it'll cut pretty well. And also, you know, if we look at my arm, I'll try and be careful. It will shave hair. You can see that on there. There's some that's just come off. So it will shave hair, and I've actually had a go on this with the Spyderco Sharpmaker, which is this thing here. I don't know if you're familiar with this system, but this is a very, very good way of sharpening your knives. In fact, my openals get scary sharp being used with this. If you want more information about that, check my other video because it's in the playlist. So have a look at that. But even after going 50 times on each edge with this knife, it's still not as sharp as my openals, and like nowhere near, frankly. But you don't want that. You don't want that sort of sharp level of sharpness with this sort of knife, because this is your everyday carry. This is a knife that you're going to use for all sorts of tasks all the time. So you want it to be sharp enough, but you don't want it to be so sharp that it loses its edge almost immediately when you do anything heavy duty on it. I mean, my openals that I keep really sharp would be for use purely for butchery, that sort of thing, and I would get another knife if I was going to whittle some wood, say, because I know it would just ruin the edge straight away. But with this, it'll do quite well. It'll carry on, it'll just stay reasonably sharp for a really long time. And it's quite a good quality steel. As Spyderco always do, they always put the name of the steel that they've used. This is CTS BD1 stainless. I'm sure some of you will know more about that than I do. So it's nice. It's nice to see something of such quality coming to the UK. And it's a pity in a way when you think that in other countries, especially in the UK and Germany, we've got a long history of making knives, especially pocket knives. But these days, you know, I mean, the pen knives you get in the UK look like they were made in like the 1920s or something. So it's nice to see Spyderco step up to the plate and bring everyone to sort of the year 2015. The other thing to bear in mind as well is there is another version of this knife, and it's got a sort of cutout here. And in fact, if you look here, you'll get an idea of what that looks like. But ugly, if you ask me. But the reason I think they've done that is because, despite this being legal, it doesn't lock. It's less than 3 inches long. So your average policeman, and obviously policemen aren't always that up on the law. You'd think they would be, but they're not. This looks quite nasty, doesn't it? It looks quite scary and sort of quote-unquote tactical. And so they did that. They changed the design to make it look a little bit more ordinary. So if somebody did get pulled over with it, they'd be less likely to get hassle. But frankly, from my perspective, is if it's legal, so I'm not going to worry about that. But you do need to think, if the police ever do pull you over and you've got a knife like this on you, the first thing they will say to you is, have you got anything on you you shouldn't have? So don't say, well, I've got this penknife, because that's saying that you've got something you shouldn't have, and you can have this, so it's fine. So if they did search you and they suddenly found it, you go, well, yeah, I mean, I'm allowed to have it. It's perfectly fine and dandy and legal. So just bear that in mind. But anyway, I did try a couple of other tasks with it. One of them was whittling some wood for feather sticking for sort of fire. In fact, if you look here, you can see it did pretty well. I mean, that was really hard aged oak, so it did quite a good job on that. But it didn't do quite so well when I tried to use it with a ferrocerium rod. In fact, if you look here, let's see how the normal striker performs in comparison. See, I have to say, you can strike a fire steel with this, but I really wouldn't recommend it. If you can, you're definitely a lot better off using the normal striker or using something else. But at least we know. You'll obviously be able to tell that it works. It will strike the back of a fire steel, but frankly, not very well. I mean, not as well as the original Striker. And again, I hate to keep comparing this to an Opinel, but the Opinels I have actually work much better than the original Striker. They've got a nice pronounced 90-degree angle on the back of the blade. And on this, even though it appears to be a 90-degree angle, I think it is slightly smoothed off, hence the fact that it doesn't strike very well. But to be honest, you're not going to do bushcrafting with this, are you? This is an everyday, normal, rudimentary knife that you'll just do whatever you need a knife for. And for that, it's great, and I've used it all the time. And I know that Tom's very jealous and is thinking of getting one too. So keep your eyes open. If you see one at a good price, grab one. A lot of people selling them are running out quite quickly. I tried to get some money off this, and the guy at the show, he had got like 10 when I first arrived, and I said, oh, I'll pop back later, and this was his last one a couple of hours later. So keep your eyes open, because they can be hard to come by. So either way, I hope you enjoyed that. Like and subscribe.